Hi, and welcome back to
Inspired to Game. I'm Sean.
And I am Lola. Today we are talking about Fairies and Magical Creatures. This is a game by Forbidden Games, who we'd like to thank for sending us a copy to review. Now, before we get to our review, we'll give you a very quick overview of how it plays. Fairies and Magical Creatures is a game with three main aspects: area control, deck building, and polyomino tile laying. On your turn, you can play one card from your hand. You may also choose one of 5 actions. Whichever action you choose to perform, everyone around the table gets to perform that action as well. Actions include placing one kinship token into any of the 5 fairy folk areas on the board. Once any player has reached 10 tokens in any of these areas, they get to take the corresponding fairy home and place it within their garden. Another action you can perform is to draft a garden tile. You can choose to place this on your player board, either on the garden side up or the path side, continuing one of your existing paths. Note, only gardens touching a path will score at the end of the game. Another action is to draft a new card. Or you may choose the action to play a card from your hand. The last possible action is to draw up to 5 cards into your hand. After the end game has been triggered, scoring begins. Adding to the points that you've collected throughout the game, you will score for area control in the various fairy realms, as well as for all the gardens that you have made during the course of the game. Whoever has garnered the most points is the winner of Fairies and Magical Creatures. So there are 2 things that I find really unique and really interest me about this game. So the first is the amalgamation of the polyomino tiling aspect with deck building and with area control. It does it in kind of a really unique way. And to be honest, at first I wasn't sure if it worked for me, as it felt a little disjointed. But once we got past that first play and played it more, I found that I really liked it, and I felt that it all works really well together and works nicely thematically as well.
Yes, at first it almost seems like there's too much going on, and do I concentrate on this or that or the other? And the secret is you kind of have to pay attention to all of it in response to what's happening in the game.
Now, the second thing that I find is really unique and interesting about this game is the fact that you get this one action to do and everybody around the table gets to do that too. I love this aspect. For one thing, it feels very friendly, and it's nice to be able to do things in other people's turn. I always like a game like that because that makes it quicker. More things are happening, so it's less downtime. So they're choosing to grow the garden, and it's like, great, which one am I going to choose? Or play a card, great, which one am I going to play? So it really keeps the game moving and has a nice friendly vibe to it. So I really love that about this game.
And you just don't want to get stuck in well, I don't want to take that action because I don't want them to be able to do that. They're going to be able to do that on their turn anyway, so you might as well get in on it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of nuance to the strategy here that I find really was startling and surprising to me, because this is a fairly gateway, family weight friendly game. So it's nothing really heavy, but there's a depth to the strategy here, and it really comes out the more that you play it. There's different things you can focus on. You can focus more on the area control or on building your garden out, or the deck building and really refining a powerful deck. And a lot of your strategy will be dependent on what's coming up, like what those cards are coming up. For instance, if you get the nymph, which allows you to play extra tiles into your garden, well, that gives you an edge on the garden. You can grow your garden a little faster. And if you get that early, well, maybe you're spending more time focused on your garden. And then maybe you get some cards that score you additional points for having a bigger garden. There's a lot of nuance to the strategy that is in here that's a lot of fun to play around with.
It's not the kind of game you go into saying, oh, I know how the last time I just did this and I won and it was simple. You have to plan your strategy on what cards are coming up and what your opponents are doing. You have to be a little more agile in your thinking. You can't go in with a set strategy.
Yeah, and it's interesting with different games have played completely different for us. For instance, you can win by having the most amazing garden and getting the most points from that, or maybe you've won a game because your area control was better than anybody else's, or you won because you really maximized in-game point scoring through having a powerful deck so that you have your token halfway down and have monstrously huge points before the end of the game comes around. So there really isn't one strategy or one way to play this game. It's very complex for a very simple game, and a very simple game that kids can play. You can play with just about anyone as well. So of course there's luck here as well. There's going to be luck with what you're drafting and how your deck is coming out as well. There are some very powerful cards that are intermixed in here, and when you can identify them and jump on them quickly, that's a benefit to you. There are also some cards that can be a little bit more take that. And what's nice though is in the way that you play, like we don't tend to play with a lot of take that, so you can just not use those cards if you don't feel like it and still win the game regardless.
And one of the things I find interesting about the deck building aspect is in most deck building games you start off with a set of cards. In this case it's 4, but you start with them in your hand, or at least a certain number of them in your hand. In this game you don't just get cards back into your draw pile when you want them. You have to spend an action to draw those cards back into your hand, and then everybody else gets to draw up at the same time.
Yeah, and you can use that for your strategy as well. I know for our first game, I was wanting to really milk what was in my hand before I took a whole action to redraw up. But there are some times where the cards that you have gotten in your draft are way more powerful than what you have, and you want to try to discard your cards quickly in order to just redraw and redraw more often to get those better cards that are really, really going to fuel your game. So there's a lot of action options going on here. The art, as you can see, is absolutely lovely. It's got a beautiful style of art. The components are fantastic, and I really love the theme. And I think the theme really shines through with all the different actions you can do and how they all tie together. Final thoughts for this game. I really, really loved it. In fact, the more I played it, the more I enjoyed it. Enjoying the different nuances of the strategy. I love the cards. I love the theme. It's a really nice, gentle theme that's fun to play. I love how the mechanics do come together, and the variety of the cards and coming up with those powerful combinations is just very choice.
Yes, for such a seemingly simple strategy game, there is a lot to learn from it and a lot to deal with, and just be agile in what you're doing, and it's a lot of fun to play and try and keep up with your opponents in that way.
Well, thank you so much for watching our review today.
Thanks for sticking to the end with us. If you enjoyed what you're watching, then please support the channel by subscribing.
And as always, happy gaming, folks. Now, this is By Forbidden Games, a game by Forbidden Games. But I think that was good, so I don't want to do that.
That was fine.
As I do it
We
again.
can say garden 3 times in a sentence, we can say games twice. But that's a forbidden game. Stay away from old oaks. Hares.
He has an obsession.
We have cats. That's... That wasn't Ember, except it might have been a Frodo now. I don't know.
Frodo, we have a new cat.
We found them. In a garden, in a rock garden.
Yeah.
He just said, "I have been chosen."
And I told him what is I have been chosen.
Farewell, my friends. Watch out for Spriggan and Banshee. You see why I don't win many. When playing a game, you have to pay attention to the game.
Wow, my man.